Yay! Whoop, whoop. Welcome to Shooting the Shit. Hello, Hannah Weinhold.
Hello, Rachel Weinhold. Hasn't it been
So
a long time since we were
it's
last here?
been a very long time since we were last here. Yes, so we have had a little break for the summer holidays because we've been doing very busy working mother stuff. And we are now back. We've got a very packed September, actually, with some really good episodes coming up in this month. But we are here today to talk about toxic positivity. So before we get into that, Hannah, tell me something positive that's happened to you this week.
Oh, it's the little baby's second birthday. So
Yay!
that little baby in arms that I was nursing on the very first few shooting the shit. Well, she's now a monstrous 2-year-old, and it looks like the Toys R Us giraffe is chucked up in my house, and we are absolutely besieged with presents and toys. And we have had 3 days thus far of birthday celebrations, but it's
Yes.
good.
Well,
It's
I've
fun.
missed all of them because I've been poorly, but I'm glad she's
Yeah.
had a nice time.
Yes, yeah. So what's something positive that's happened to you, Aura?
Well, our positive thing, actually, I talked about it on GTFO on Friday. So our positive thing is that we got three little piggies. Three little piggies came to live
Woo!
with us.
When did they
Yes.
go to market?
Well, they're not because we're nice vegetarian friends of the pigs, so we're not going to eat them. But they're
Sorry.
yeah,
Dally
go on.
did say to me yesterday, I think I might get a boar and breed the pigs. And I was like, oh, yay. And then he went and eat the piglets. Oh, no.
Oh, you can't even eat the piglets. Oh, he's horrendous, isn't he? Yeah. So they're not for eating. They are pets, and they're very friendly, and they're very positive, and they're very cute. So there we
What are
go.
they called?
Oh God, like something I don't know because they've got three names and I haven't figured out which one of them is which yet. They're called Penny. They've all got names beginning with P, but I can't remember. But the thing that annoys me most about this whole situation is that the lady who we got them off, she sent a folder with all the information about the
I
pigs.
like her already. Yeah.
Yeah, except that she spelt pigs, put it g apostrophe s on the folder, and the folder does not belong to one pig. It is the folder of all three pigs, so it makes me very cross every time I look at it. But apart from that, looking on the positives,
Well,
they're very
let's not
cute.
get too positive, Rachel, because did you
No,
know there is such a thing as toxic positivity?
there is such thing as toxic positivity. So today we are talking about women, mental health, and the wellness industry, and toxic positivity, and what that means for all of those three things. So first of all, Hannah, give me a definition of toxic positivity. What is it?
Like always looking on the bright side, good vibes only. It's a reaction to anything that's negative that happens about, don't let it get you down. Why don't you just, turn your frown upside down? That
Yeah.
sort of shit.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's really prevalent. Well, we're going to talk in a minute about the kind of communities that it's prevalent in, but you've probably seen it on social media, and it's those horrendous memes, and they've got lovely, nicey pinky backgrounds and nice handwritten fonts, and it's things like "good vibes only" and all the rest of it, isn't it?
Walk
And
through
it's
the raindrops and,
yeah,
all this sort of stuff.
it's
Yeah.
basically being positive to the detriment of everything else. And so, why is it damaging?
Well, I think, like you say, it's to the detriment of certainly your own mental health. So there's a few reasons why toxic positivity, and it's kind of enticing, or what's the word I'm looking for? Like,
Appealing?
yeah, it's appealing to think, oh, if I just think positively, I'll never be sad. But that's not possible.
Mm,
Your emotions are a kind of range, and there's no good or bad emotions. Positivity isn't a good emotion and sadness is a bad emotion. There are no good or bad emotions. And I watched a TED talk on this, and they said something really interesting, that was emotions are data, they're not directives. So because it's up to you what you want to do with these emotions, but you can't dampen emotions because you have them all as a human. It's part of the human experience, and you can't just wish away negative emotions. You have to deal with them. And if you don't experience them, it can stop people getting real help and talking about their problems. If you're in a kind of a good vibe only environment or family or situation or mindset, then you might kind of shirk away from being able to say, you know what, actually, I'm having a really crap day. I feel rubbish, or my mental health hasn't been great recently and it's been pervasive. And so I think I'm going to go and speak to a doctor. So it can really discourage people from speaking out about it. And why are we demonizing these bad emotions? Because surely that's where the stigma around mental health comes in. That, you know, oh, you shouldn't be having these emotions. You need to just think positively. There's no reason to be depressed. And I think this is contributing to this massive mental health stigma and problem that we have, especially among boys and men. It's not possible to be happy all the time. It's not helpful to tell somebody who's having a shit time, hashtag good vibes only, or dance through the raindrops, or, you know, be your best self, or smile through the pain, or any of that nonsense. You have to feel these emotions. And just to, you know, continue my soliloquy, I was reading a really interesting article today on Psychology Today, because that's my bag, to be fair. And it was saying that people who complain of stress and kind of poor mental health, which is something I've been going through a lot in the last 12 months, they often feel like they're not themselves, like they're not kind of connected with who they are or who they used to be or who they feel they used to be. And that, I really identified with that. And it said the reason behind that, the psychological reason behind that, is that you're not connected with the real self because you're putting on a brave face all the time. You're not talking about your emotions. So you're literally not connecting with who you are. You're not your real self. You're this front, and it becomes too much to kind of chip away at. And so as humans, we have to talk about how we feel, and we have to be able to acknowledge this is not a good time for me at the moment. I'm not in a good place at the moment, whatever. Whether you're kind of asking for help or not, you just need to be able to vocalize it, verbalize it, and kind of put it out there. And then you do start to feel like your real self again.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to put like a couple of little caveats on the things that, you know, we are talking today about toxic positivity and how damaging that is. And I just want to make it clear, we're not saying that positivity is bad. And we're not saying that the people who sort of espouse positivity aren't bad. They're doing it from a good place. They are trying to put a positive front on things and put a smile on things and say there's always somebody worse off and let's think about it in a good light. And they're not purposefully trying to do anybody down or diminish anybody. But the problem is, and, you know, obviously, again, also, I recognize that there is, what do you call it? What's that thing that you do? The counselling that you go for, where you change your mindset.
CBT.
Cognitive behavioral therapy. Obviously, you know, the whole purpose of cognitive behavioral therapy is to stop thinking in negative cycles all the time and be able to think of things and put a positive spin on stuff. And we're not saying that's wrong. Obviously, that's massively helpful for a lot of people. The problem comes where you have this, as you said, forced positivity, and you're only allowed to feel the positive things. And you have these sort of workplaces or online spaces or wherever where you're not allowed to, you know, good vibes only. You're not allowed to bring the negativity. And people say things like, leave your problems at the front door. Or,
leave your problems at the door. I hate that. How can you do that?
Come with a positive mental attitude and all the rest of it. And the problem is, as you said, it massively diminishes what people are feeling. You're essentially saying to somebody, you might be having negative feelings. You might be feeling bad today. You might want to burst into tears, but that's not a valid emotion to have here. And here you've got to put a smile on you. You've got to be positive and you've got to look on the bright side. And that means I'm not valuing the negative emotions that you're feeling, or the sad emotions that you're feeling, or the anxious emotions. I'm not going to allow you to talk about it. I'm not going to allow you to feel it. Basically, shut up, go away and hide it. And as you said, that massively brings all of the shame that we feel around mental health and mental illness and feeling down and stuff. That's what creates that shame, isn't there?
Exactly. And I think, like, you know, I do a lot of fitness and stuff, and the whole thing in like the fitness world, which is amazing that I'm a part of, is if you're not, you know, if something's not right in your body, listen to your body. If something hurts one day, don't keep doing it. You know, if you've got a bit of a head cold, don't work out. If you're not feeling it, don't push yourself. But then, like, you know, you kind of go out there and the world is saying, if you're mentally not right, fucking push yourself, go. Like, and it's not helpful. It's not, I mean, you wouldn't kind of like jog off a broken leg. So why are we kind of grinning through the pain mentally? It's not useful. And I don't think that it's a coincidence that suicide amongst men in particular is skyrocketing, along with this incredibly unpleasant trait as well, this social kind of trend.
I mean, absolutely. And this is a real point, isn't it? I mean, we are a feminism plus business podcast. So we're, the pitch that we put at the top of this was, talking about women, mental health. And one of the reasons is, and we'll come on to talk in a minute about the spaces where this attitude is most prevalent. They are female dominated spaces, but you're absolutely right. I mean, there is a mental health crisis at the moment amongst young men in particular, lads in their late teens and their early 20s. I mean, we've heard of another horrendous situation that's happened today with somebody that we know. Young men are committing suicide at phenomenal rates. And I think a big part of the problem is that we absolutely do not allow space for men. And this is toxic masculinity as much as toxic positivity, which we have talked about before. But it's that whole thing of, put on a brave face, pull your socks up, suck your lip in, crack on. Do not feel those negative emotions. Do not talk about it. It's not acceptable. You're a man, pull yourself together. And it's horrendous because if, we are about to go through potentially one of the biggest mental health crises this country has ever seen. And we say that on the back of 2 years of a COVID pandemic.
And we're going to be fucking cold while we're doing it.
We're going to, absolutely. The cost of living crisis and the fuel bills, it's going to be a really tough winter. And actually, if we don't allow space for people to say, I'm cold, I'm miserable, I'm worried about how I'm going to feed my kids, I'm worried if I've got enough petrol to get to work tomorrow, we have to normalize these conversations and make it okay. Otherwise, people are just going to suffer in silence and they're going to have massive anxiety. And then, again, we're opening us up to a world of pain, aren't we?
Definitely.
So, I mean, have you ever experienced it, Hannah, personally, where you felt potentially a negative emotion and somebody hasn't validated that emotion or allowed you to feel it or allowed you to express it?
Yeah, definitely. Like when I, at work and stuff, when I've been employed by other people, absolutely, through, and even through postnatal depression with my eldest, with Naya, where I went to the doctors and said, I don't feel right. I don't feel good. And he said, oh, come back to me in 3 weeks and walk more. Like, seriously. So yeah, absolutely. And I bet not one person amongst us hasn't. I think the other thing as well is I do it to myself, and that's what really hurts. I kind of I've fallen foul of this, there's people worse off than you. Like my friend said to me the other night, you always minimize your emotions. You always just gloss over how you're feeling and brush it off. And I do, because I just think, there's people way worse, that have it way worse than me. I've got a lovely life, blah, blah, blah. But that doesn't mean I can't feel stressed or sad or worried or hurt or angry as well as, happy and proud and grateful and all the other things. It doesn't diminish the good emotions, does it? It just means that there's the mixed bag in there.
Yeah,
what about you, Rara?
Well, yeah, absolutely. And I mean, one of the things that I think I've always struggled with is that our nan used to say to us, there's always people worse off than you. Think of starving Europe and all the rest of it. And there was very much, and she came from this wartime mentality of put a brave face on and crack on. And there is always somebody worse off than you, absolutely. But if we ever had an argument with her, or a bit of a, not an argument, but a disagreement, or we said, oh, I'm not happy about that, or I don't like it, or I don't want to do it, or whatever, it was, well, you've said it now, come on, put a smile on your face, crack on, that's it, it's over and done with. And I always used to sit there thinking, it's not over and done with, I'm still feeling it, I'm still feeling really angry about that thing or really upset about it. And you just had to sort of move on, crack on and move on. And I always found that really hard, because it's absolutely, you just feel like you've been dismissed and diminished. And if you're if you're not allowed to express those feelings and say, and I do think sometimes it, we'll talk about how you can sort of combat it in a little while, but it does come from a place where people don't know how to deal with it. And we're very British, aren't we? We're not comfortable with discussing emotions and having those open conversations with people. And we always want to make somebody feel better. There always wants to be a resolution. So we want to say, oh, you'll be all right, you'll get over it, it'll be fine, because we don't know how to say, but all right, it's tough. I don't have an answer. And so we minimize it by trying to do what's right.
I think as well, there's a lot of, it's become grammable, it's become fashionable, like my girls have got t-shirts that say hashtag good vibes only on, and you see it all the time. It's just become a slogan that's marketable. So
Yeah.
marketing agencies like Primark, fashion brands and stuff, they're doling out mental health advice in a sense. Like they're the ones that are helping to kind of promote this awful, good vibes only, no, like turn your frown upside down nonsense.
Mm.
So, when did that happen? That social media and trends and fashion affects like mental advice and like your mental well-being.
Well, I mean, that's a very good point. So, one of the next things I want to talk about is where is this most prevalent? And I think it's undeniable that social media, obviously it existed before social media, of course it did, but the rise of social media, and I think particularly the wellness industry, I think there's we've talked a few times recently about the things that can be laid at the door of the wellness sector online at the moment, but it's particularly that health and fitness and wellness sort of space, particularly on Instagram, because it is, as you say, it's grammable, isn't it? Have a nice background or an inspiring photo of a woman at the top of a mountain and a nice quote overlaid. It's easy content, and that message of be positive and try harder and think better and work for more and all the rest of it is very, very prevalent online. And then our young girls are seeing it, and boys, and they're taking that through. But I do think it's always existed. And we've had a couple of comments already about the workplace. Somebody saying they were told by their line manager to pull themselves together. Somebody was told when they worked at a big supermarket, that they had to leave their problems at the door. And, that play, particularly workplaces, I think, have always been a space where we've been told, don't bring your problems here, leave your problems at home. When you come here, you have a smile on and, you put your front on. And I get it. If you're in a customer facing role, I understand you can't stand there, if you're a waitress, stand there at somebody's table going, I've had a really awful day, because that's not, obviously that's not putting that business in a good light. But there has to be a space where you create, you have to create a space where you enable your staff to say, actually, I'm not all right. And can I talk
Oh, you're frozen.
about it? And, can you help me? Well,
Yeah, or even
Wi-Fi.
like, treating mental wellness and or illness as a physical illness or physical, like I'm not feeling great, I can't come in, or I'm not feeling great, can I work half a shift, or can I work in the back or whatever. I think that needs to be available as well. But I think as well, is it a generational thing? Because we work with young people and they're very scary. And then they are much more in tune with, kind of all the round, the full gamut of human emotion, and they seem to be much more open about expressing it and saying when they need help. And perhaps this is just a kind of culture that we've created at work, but they do seem to be more in touch with it. And when I go on TikTok pretending to be a young person as well,
Yeah.
it does seem to be a lot more kind of open about your emotions, and it's okay to not be okay and stuff, and all vibes welcome. I think it's our generation, I think it's the millennials that are doing these ridiculous signs that you stick on your walls and stuff on social media about good vibes only.
Affirmations. Yeah, it is.
Affirmations,
It
positive
comes from this
thinking.
affirmation culture. And you're right. We've had a big thing of, you could get all the decals and little wooden boards with it written on, about thinking positive and live, laugh, love. And, it was a massive trend in home decoration as much as anything else, wasn't it? That I think our generation has been subjected to, that has fed this thing. And maybe again, I don't want to say that it's come from a negative place, because I think all of that genuinely has come from a good place of our
100%.
generation going like, oh my, we were the first that was starting to recognize that there was a mental health crisis looming. And we were like, what can we do about it? Let's think positive. Let's say good things. Let's make ourselves feel better. Let's tell each other that we're awesome. And actually, yeah, you're right. The younger generation now are coming in and going, well, actually, let's tell each other that we're rubbish before we tell each other that we're, let's talk
Yeah.
about the
Or let's
things.
just ask how the other person's feeling. And
Yeah.
I think as well, like, the rise of the self-help book in the 70s and the 80s and stuff, I think that has a lot to answer for, because self-help, yes, self-help is a thing. And yes, run a bath, do some deep breathing, do some exercise, go on some walk. But also there does need to be a responsibility on the medical professions as well, to say, it's only going to get you so far, and eventually you need therapy or you need drugs, or you need something.
Yeah, and the other thing is, there's a little bit of a, and I don't want to get too political, but we're papering over massive cracks here. A decent housing, decent education, decent healthcare are the things that will help. Putting a nice sign on your wall telling you to feel positive when you go into the bathroom
To
in the
hide the
morning.
damp running down.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I mean, we're back to this thing. Coming this winter, people are not going to be able to feed their children. They're not going to be able to pay their electricity bill, and having a nice affirmation on your Instagram every morning is not going to paper over that. So there's an element of, it's just a veneer that we're trying to deal with it with this nice, pretty facade, and actually we need to get a little bit deeper and start actually facing up to what's going on, don't we?
Maybe it is all a government conspiracy, and actually the government have come up with this to make us all forget how fucking awful everything is, because we hashtag live life love, or whatever it is, live laugh love.
Yeah, maybe the Conservatives have created Instagram to make us feel better. That's fair. So one of the things that I want to talk about then, rather than us just complaining about toxic positivity and how it papers over the cracks, let's look about how do we create positive spaces. And this is about for men and women, at workplaces, at schools, even on social media. When we say creating a positive space, obviously we're a feminism in the workplace podcast, so that's our main concern. But these tips are applicable anywhere. So the first thing that we want to do is allow all feelings. So hashtag all vibes welcome. But how do we do that, Hannah? How do we allow all feelings?
Well, for one thing, stop posting silly shit on your Instagram. I think for one thing, it starts with you, doesn't it? You can't change somebody else's attitude. You can only change your own attitude. So, like, I am certainly trying to work harder at being more open, and talk about, allowing all those feelings to come through, not just kind of disregarding some of them. So I think, it starts with one and it knocks on to 2 and 3 people and stuff. Like, what was that stupid thing? Like, a smile is infectious, a smile spreads, or whatever. It's that sort of thing. If you're allowing the full range of emotions to come through and talking about them, then you naturally create that sort of environment.
Well, I mean, practically speaking, we've been doing this on social media, because I know you've done it on your Instagram, haven't you? You did a post about your postnatal depression on LinkedIn. Sorry,
Yeah.
I recently, last week, did a post on Facebook about the genuine concerns about gas and electricity bills and the rising cost of living and things, and off the back of that, people were then able to comment, because the thing about social media is, of course, we only post the good things. Of course we do. Why are we going to put a post on Facebook that says, actually, I've just spent 20 minutes in the shower crying?
You okay, hon?
Yeah, of course we're not going to post that, because we don't want to post a photo of us looking rubbish and with our mascara running or anything. But I do think it's important that we are honest if there are things that we're worried about. Create a space for that, and by talking about it yourself, you are then allowing other people to start talking about it.
Exactly. Like, when I put on that, it was about burnout. Actually, I put on LinkedIn this long post about, how bonkers I've been this year. And so many people came up to me, people that I barely knew, saying, oh, it's so refreshing to read that. Like, you always look like you've got it all together. And I told our business coach the other day, and she said, "Oh, well, your makeup's always perfect, and your house always looks reasonable." I know she said reasonable, not good.
No, yeah, not tidy.
Yeah, your house always looks fairly habitable. And I thought, God, I kind of obviously am giving off this impression that everything's okay, and just by saying I'm having a really tough time, quite a few people have said to me, it was really good to read that actually, because I've been feeling a bit the same. And what have you done? And this is kind of what I've found useful. So it's definitely opened up that discourse.
And I think the worry is then, and it's a genuine concern, you don't want to seem like you're attention seeking. I don't want to be that sort of woe is me and put a post up saying, actually, I'm really struggling today, so that I get loads of messages of people going, you okay, hon? Inbox me if you need me. That's not why I'm doing it. I'm doing it because I want to, as I say, provide that space. So absolutely, whether that's a virtual space online or it's a physical space, whether if you're in your workplace, provide somewhere where you can have that conversation. It's really, really important.
Sorry, just to say as well, I think as well, I was worried that I'd come across as unprofessional or not able to do my job, that people wouldn't trust me with the SEO because, I'm going off the deep end. And actually, it's not. The response has not been that. And I think as small business owners, as kind of end users, as consumers, I think it's really important that we kind of make it clear as well that just because you're having a tough time, that doesn't mean that we don't. That's the dog squeaking his toy, if you can hear that, by the way.
Yeah, we can hear that. Well, we always tell, when we do social media training, we always say to people, be authentic. Yeah. And it is that, isn't it? It's about showing the rough with the smooth, because, life is not a bunch of rainbows and daisies and kittens. It just isn't. So show all sides. So number one, allow all feelings. Number two, allow space for feelings to be shared and explored, whether that's a physical space or a virtual space, but just allow somewhere people can have those conversations. Number three,
just to give an example on that, at our work, for example, we don't have to have necessarily, a sensory room with beanbags and things to cuddle in it, rabbits and whatever. Just at our work, as a really practical example, people know that they're able to text me and say, I'm having a shit day, do you mind if I don't work? And that's okay. They don't have to give me a solid reason as to why they feel that they're sick enough to too sick to come into work, because they're adults and I trust their judgment. So just kind of as an employer, be open and trust your staff and give them a way that they can just say, not for me today, I'm struggling. And then we kind of, I'll occasionally text staff and say, oh God, it's the dog. I just felt little hands on my I just felt little hands on my leg. Okay. Just kind of give them that space, make it okay, check in on people, make sure that they know that it's a job and they're human and the job is not the most important thing.
Yes, which leads me nicely on to actually point 3, which is ask, are you okay? It's absolutely fine. Okay.
Are you okay, Rachel?
I think I'm in danger.
Blink 3 times if you want me to send the police.
It's like The Shining, isn't it? So people who are listening to this are wondering what's going on. My husband is standing at the door, looming, looking through the window. So that's what we're in. So yeah, number 3, ask, are you okay? So as Hannah's just said, we provide a space, we make it clear to our staff that they are able to say, I'm struggling today, I'm going to take an afternoon off, whatever. But we also have a fortnightly team meeting where we all just get together. It's not work related. We don't have a specific agenda, but we do sit round and we say, are you okay? And if at that point they're comfortable, because it's in a group setting, to say, actually, no, I'm not, I'm struggling with my workloads, can somebody take something off me, or I'm feeling a bit down at the moment, then that's fine. If they don't feel comfortable to say it in the meeting, we always say to them, you can tell me this after the meeting, text me, email me, phone me, however you want to do it, ring me and I'll meet you for a coffee, however's best, but specifically ask. Don't just wait for your staff or your friends or whoever to come and tell you they're not all right. Ask them, are you okay? And make it clear they're allowed to say no.
And model that good behavior as well. You say in we will say quite upfront in those conversations, I'm really struggling, or, I really need some help with this, or I just can't cope, or I've had an awful morning. We will openly talk about our the whole range of our emotions as well. And I
Yeah.
think that possibly helps foster a good culture as well.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, model it. So number 4 then is acknowledge pain and stress and learn to say I don't know. So again, back to this point that we said before, as humans, particularly as British people, we're very inclined to say, "Oh, come on, you're all right. Let's crack on. Let's put a smile on your face
Tomorrow will
and
be
get on with it."
better.
Yeah. But it's actually okay to say, I'm really sorry. That sounds shit. I'm really sorry you're going through. I don't have any answers, but please
I'm
talk
here
to
if
me,
you
or I'm
need.
here. Yeah, exactly. And that's absolutely fine. You don't always have to have the answer or have a resolution. You can just say, that sounds crap. So get used to saying that to people, because it's really important. And number 5 is always be learning, always encourage growth, and always be learning. And that is in yourself, but also in everybody else. And what we mean by that is, if you don't have to have sort of group counseling sessions or group team meetings if you don't want, but there are some free mental health courses that you can send your staff on. You can send your staff on training to become mental health first aiders. There are also lots of sort of well-being things. So if you live in Lancashire, where we do, Lancashire Adult Learning provide loads of free courses for employers to give to their employees, such as classes on gardening or yoga or all sorts of things that have nothing to do with the workplace. So just have a Google for what is available in your local area. It doesn't have to be specific mental health training. It could just be, you could all go to do an escape room. You could go out for a meal. You go out for drinks, but provide an environment where you are able to learn together and grow together, because that's the only way things are going to get better.
Can I just say as well, I think it's Karim. I can't see the Facebook user, but I think it's our cousin Karim, says he's watching from Georgia, and has commented and said, people like he gets upset but doesn't really get depressed. And I think, we're not necessarily talking about, I know I'm talking about breakdowns because that's my point of reference, but we're not necessarily talking about people absolutely losing the plot, going off the deep end, having an absolute mental health crisis. It's just kind of acknowledging that there's a range of emotions, that today you're sad, today you're stressed, today you're happy, or even this minute you're happy, this minute you're stressed. This bad thing has happened and it's okay to feel bad about that. A bird shit on your shoulder on the way into work. It's okay to feel annoyed about that. It's not, oh, well, it's good luck, positive vibes only, good things happen to me. It's not as like big as depression and positivity. It's just that little pervasive everyday thing that actually, when you add it all up, it compounds itself to become a larger crisis, a larger problem of not acknowledging your own emotions, your own thoughts, your own range of feelings. It's not like both ends of the spectrum. It's
I think
everything in
as well,
between.
we are talking about emotions here predominantly, but it's also things like failure. If we're talking about it in the context of a workplace, particularly, or a school environment, for example, it's providing somebody with the ability to say, I haven't done that. There always used to be that thing in schools, didn't there? There's no such thing as can't, or, what was the other one? Failure is not an option. Well, actually, failure is normal. Mistakes are normal, and they are the way that we learn. So it's also providing a space where people can say, I've messed up, or I forgot to do that, or I've tried and I can't do it. Please, can you help me do it better?
But also, being able to say I've messed up, and not somebody say, well, if you don't like shoot for the moon, you'll reach the stars, or whatever it is. I said to Dave the other day after netball, I missed loads of shots and I was really annoyed, and we didn't win the match, but that was okay. But I was really frustrated that I missed these shots. And he went, well, Michael Jordan always says you miss like 99 of the 100 shots you take, so you've got to take 6,000 shots. And I just wanted to feel frustrated, not like to put a downer on Dave, but I just wanted to feel frustrated, because that's how I felt, just really frustrated that I hadn't done what I thought was my best. And that's okay. You don't always need to be going, well, failure is an opportunity to learn. Yes, it is. But in this minute, I just want to feel bad about myself.
Yes, I just didn't hit them all. Yeah,
no,
yeah,
but
absolutely.
Yes, it's an opportunity to learn. But that failure, that frustration, is also a valid emotion.
Yeah, absolutely. So very quickly, I've got some toxic positivity replacement sayings. So I've got 5 common sayings that people respond with, and I want to know what an alternative could be. So instead
Okay.
of saying you'll get over it, when somebody tells you that something bad's happened, instead of saying you'll get over it, what would be a better thing to say?
Stop being a soft twat. No. You'll get over it. You could say, like, I'm very sorry to hear that. Please let me know if I can do anything to help. I'm here to listen.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's as simple as that. That sounds rubbish. That sounds really rubbish. And I'm really sorry you're going through that. The other thing is, as well, when you say to somebody, I'm sorry, like when they say, oh, such a body's died, and you say, I'm sorry, and they say, it's not your fault. It's like, I'm not sorry that the event has happened. I am sorry that you are feeling sadness, loss, grief, all the rest of it. So sometimes make that clear to somebody.
Yeah.
Rather than just saying, I'm sorry, say, I'm really sorry that you're feeling that way. Is there anything I can do to help you? Just tell me.
Yeah, because when people say to me, "Oh, I'm sorry," I always say, "Well, you didn't do it," as like a way
Yeah.
of deflecting and lightening the lightening
Yeah.
the conversation. But yeah, anyway, go
Okay.
on. Number
So,
2.
right. Number 2. So instead of saying, don't be so negative, what could you say to somebody?
Cheer up. No, you could say, don't be so negative. You could say, I'm really sorry to hear that. Is there anything I can do to help?
Well, I suppose the point is, instead of saying don't be so negative, it's about acknowledging that emotion, isn't it? So instead of
Yeah.
saying don't be so negative, you say, I can really, that sounds awful. I can see why that is making you
I
upset.
can see why that would be
Yeah, if I
frustrating.
was
Yeah.
going through that, I would be feeling exactly the same way. It's about giving somebody that validation and saying you are allowed to feel this way. And
Yeah.
that's perfectly understandable that you feel that way, because anybody would feel that way going through what you're going through. So,
Yeah.
but, maybe provide some constructive solutions if you can, but don't, if somebody's just lost somebody dear to them, don't say, well, just go for a walk and you'll feel better. So,
if someone's not got a load of nets at a netball game, you could say, just try harder next time, Hannah.
yeah,
Or,
buy yourself some better trainers, Hannah.
there's no better trainers.
Yeah.
Or like, that sounds frustrating. I can see why you'd be annoyed. However, I'm sure the team didn't think that you were awful and blah, blah, blah. Like, I think, just putting that little caveat, Michael Jordan said, but, yes, I can see why you're frustrated.
Yeah, absolutely. So number 3, failure is not an option. What could we say instead of failure is not an option?
Failure is an option.
Failure is perfectly normal.
Yeah, try your best. Do what you can. Do your best.
I think also as well, it's nobody is born with the knowledge of how to do everything. And people say to me, like, if I'm training them how to do something, they say, oh, I'm sorry, I've not got it first time, blah, blah. So it's all right to say, it took me 5 goes to get it, or it took me 3 years to learn this, or, nobody is born with the knowledge of how to do this. So it's absolutely fine to try and fail, or to make mistakes or whatever. Again, just make sure that is normalized, rather than coming out with things like, there's no such thing as can't, or there's no such thing as try. Okay, number 4, there's always someone worse off. What can we say instead of there's always someone worse off?
Well, I don't know, because I use this a lot.
I think about myself in this term all the time. I'm always saying there's always someone worse off than me. And it's usually in Nanny's voice, back to what we said at the beginning.
Yeah.
It's usually Nanny going, think of starving Europe. There's always someone worse off than you. And there is. And again, back to that CBT thing, there is usually somebody worse off. And it's all right to come round to that point of view. But it's about putting it into the context, isn't it? Of saying, yeah, there is someone worse off. But actually, this thing that's happening to me is making me really upset now. And so for today, I'm just going to feel really upset. And then tomorrow I'll think about the people that are worse off and, walk 3 miles to get water and all the rest of it. But actually today I just feel upset.
Yeah, you're really good at doing that. I think, like, just saying, I can see why you're really sad about that. Again, just validate that emotion and then work towards, if you want to suggest, like, oh, let's cheer you up, let's go for coffee, or let's go and get smashed or whatever. Like, you can still do that. It's not like, we're not wanting everyone to turn into Eeyores. It's just acknowledging that people have got that kind of, that sad part of them or that worried bit of them and stuff. Like
Yeah.
it's just about not just saying, come on, pull your socks up,
And
think.
it's about as well, if you acknowledge the actual thing that is making you sad, you can start to solve it. Again, by just pushing things under the carpet and saying, oh yeah, you've got a lot on your plate. I'm not surprised you feel rubbish, but come on, cheer up. Let's crack on. There's always, plenty of worse people off at sea and things. But, actually, if you say, all right, let's list the things that making you feel sad right now. Yeah, you've got this, this, and this. How are we going to solve that? Right. Well, we can solve that by, starting work an hour earlier. Okay, right. How are we going to do that? Well, we can solve that by finishing work an hour earlier, and we can solve this one by getting a babysitter once a week. So, you can start to put a plan in place.
It's really interesting though, because you always get annoyed with me because I'm a solution seeker. I always find a solution to problems. And you come to me for a moan, and I go, well, why don't we do this? Why don't we do that? Why don't we do this? And you're like, I just want to moan, Hannah. Whereas I never come for a moan. I don't come for a moan. I come seeking a solution. I want advice or help.
And I don't. I never provide them. Yeah, because I'm always just going, well, that is terrible. I understand why you feel like that.
Yeah.
And this is the thing. This is the dynamic as well. There's an element of understanding how other people need it. The reason I get cross is because most of the time I've already thought of the solution. I already know it. I just want to moan at somebody. So it's about, understanding. So sometimes it's fine to say to somebody, what would you like me to do about this? Do you want me to just sit here and give you a hug, or would you like me to give you some suggestions?
Yeah.
Okay, and number 5, instead of good vibes only, what could we say?
All vibes welcome.
Yeah, all vibes. Yeah, feel whatever you're feeling is fine to feel. It's perfectly normal, because all human emotions are perfectly normal. So feel whatever you need to feel. Absolutely. Right, we've gone way over time there, and I'm supposed to be at the theatre.
Number 3.
I know. Right. Well, so thank you. I think what we've learned there is that positivity is brilliant. We're not saying that positivity is bad at all. It's just about putting it into that context and making sure we have the positivity, but we also allow for the lesser, those horrible emotions, the sadness and the pain and the loss and the grief and all the rest of it, because that's fine too. You just have to make sure you have space for it and allow people to feel it, and then bring them around to the positivity rather than just blanketing over it all. Hannah, final thought.
Acknowledge it in yourself. Allow yourself, if nobody else acknowledges it, you allow yourself that 5 minutes to sit with what you're feeling and acknowledge it. Don't push everything down. Take it from me. It doesn't work.
And mine would be just make sure you're providing space for people. If you don't tell people this actively, they won't understand it, because the messages that come from social media and the media and other workplaces are already in their head. So people already think that they're not allowed to feel negative emotions. So you have to actively tell them, this is fine, let's have a conversation about it, and then you can move on from there. So be positive, be open, about being positive.
Be positive at all costs.
Positivity. Yeah, there we go. Nothing but positivity. Thank you very much for watching and for commenting. We really, really appreciate it. If you are watching back, we will still see the comments and we will still answer you. If you're watching on YouTube, then please subscribe below, guys. We do also still see your comments, so please leave them. And if you are listening to this on a podcast, please do all the podcasty things, like and subscribe and rate us and everything else.
Yada.
We are back next Monday, where we've got Samara Barnes as our special guest, because it is breastfeeding week. So we're going to talk about breastfeeding in the workplace and how we create workplaces and spaces generally where it is okay for women to breastfeed, but it is also okay for women not to breastfeed. So we'll be here to talk about that. Thank you very much, Hannah Weinhold.
Thank you very much, Rachel Weinhold.
I'll see you next week.
See you next week. Bye.